It eliminates income taxes on up to $25,000 in tips. Isn't that pretty good? And the tips are really it eliminates income taxes on up to $24,500 on overtime pay. For people who are out there really hustling, really working on overtime pay, you're going to get $12,500 in relief on overtime pay. You know, if you can't be quiet, why don't you just leave the room, all right?
Release the files.
You just embarrass yourself acting that way, okay? There's people here that like to listen. There's people here that like to listen. So, now, the taxes put in place actually by the Democrats on Social Security, the structure of this bill allowed us to add an extra $6,000 deduction for seniors to not have their Social Security tax on that additional, because of that additional $6,000 deduction. So those are pretty good things for normal people, middle income people, lower middle income people that were part of this package. And so the incentives for building here in America, for the jobs it will bring back, is indeed going to be a great big plus for all of us. So,
Epstein files.
just a little bit leading into the new year. I serve on 3 committees in the U.S. House: the Agricultural Committee, the Natural Resources Committee, and the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. I get to serve as chairman of the subcommittee on forestry, which obviously is a big thing for us in this part of the state. And we've had fire after fire, of course. I don't need to tell you that needs to be not the pattern, but the rarity for what we endure up here with the fire. I can't even name all the names of the fire. There's so much destruction. So we've worked closely lately on the Mendocino National Forest to get more action out there, because there wasn't even access to people that people you know it right here in your backyard. Some of your familiar families should be able to get out to their own lands. The Forest Service wasn't repairing, maintaining the roads with dead trees or threats of dead trees on there. They couldn't even go get to their own land in terms of thinning and stuff. So we're making heavily on that. So they actually are getting the ability to access that land. So that's very important for the jobs as well as fire safety. So we're very dedicated towards doing more on the forestry. We have a win for people that have been victims of fire and that were actually getting taxed by the federal government. Was getting a tax bill passed to the IRS as a tax you for an award you may receive as a fire victim outside your insurance, for example, the PG&E settlement. So that should not be a taxable event. That is not really to flee the government in PG&E. That's a good thing to help those not be taxed on that. Somehow IRS believed that was taxable. So in that last disaster bill, we also included $75 million to do targeted sitting on federal land where it meets up next to private ground. So a lot of times it would happen when you get a lightning strike or a fire on federal land, it burns right through and burns up private land where those folks are actually trying to make a living and employ people, like many people in this town, even more so in the past. So having that in place has helped to do more of the thinning, the forest management on federal land next to private land, next to towns, next to cities, that will help make things more fire safe. We have a lot to do. The Forest Service is in charge of 193 million acres across the country, and we have got to pick up the pace and scale, so to speak, of how that land is treated, because we're not nearly keeping up. The amount of board feet that are growing out there versus the amount of board feet of wood that is taken out is like a 10-to-1 ratio, and we're not going to win at that rate. An important bill passed was the Fix Our Forests Act, and it has passed the House. It's waiting over the Senate. We do have Senator Padilla here. You can look, bipartisan, has joined me in supporting the bill. Hopefully it's much of what's negotiated will not be opposed to it. So here we go. Now, a big topic. We know we're going to hear about it tonight, and that's good. Let's have a discussion on the Medicaid portion of the bill. Nobody's cutting anybody that is a true needful person. No one's being kicked off for being low income or needing it. If you qualify for Medicaid, you will get it. Protects the coverage for seniors, people with disabilities, low-income children, and adults that are created.
Let him speak!
So what we're doing is
Let him speak! Let him speak!
Your time.
Come on.
We already heard
So
it on
what
Fox
it
News.
does in the legislation, for those that are, it's known as the ABOD, able-bodied adult without dependents. It institutes a work or community volunteer requirement for certain adults that don't have an obligation at home, so that those that really need it, more dollars get to the folks that don't have that ability. So specifically able-bodied adults without dependents that have no disability. So it doesn't cut a single dollar from people that do qualify. Now, I do have to say that at the state level, you need Sacramento to be a lot more responsible for how it administers its end of the Medicaid/Medi-Cal program. When you have the Newsom administration targeting $12 to $12.5 billion for illegal immigrants, $12 to $12.5 billion. Why should the federal government keep pouring money into the state to spend illegally? Because there's a federal nexus. A federal nexus. The federal nexus is the federal money that goes into that fund are directed towards illegal immigrants. And I think taxpayers work too hard to have their money go to illegal immigration. Okay? So the state of California has a responsibility and a role in helping the Medicaid program, Medi-Cal programs run as efficiently as possible. So there is fraud, there is waste in it. For example, approximately 2.8 million people are potentially that many enrolled in Medicaid in more than one state. Dual states, okay? Why do we want people taking advantage of enrolling in two different states? We need to have oversight on it. We need to enforce it. So, again, non-citizens should not be receiving the benefit of your hard work. So, $12.5 billion at the state level was the amount that the state deficit was short. So, $12.5 billion would go a long ways, and it would also mean the state wouldn't have to raise taxes on people because they have a short budget deficit. On the SNAP program, I got a little bit on the SNAP. Indeed, that was part of the action here. It's also part of the Farm Bill. SNAP used to be known as food stamps. It's a supplemental nutrition assistance program. It's a good program, helps many, many people right here in Northern California. So we want it to be targeted towards the people that need and targeted to the people that are really supposed to have the eligibility. So that the way Congress intended is what it was. So again, you run into a problem where there's a certain amount going to illegal immigrants, and you have a certain amount. So $200 billion in savings can be achieved by cracking down on the fraud in the program and still having the people that have eligibility gain the benefit. That sounds like a win-win to me. So SNAP spending has nearly doubled since 2019, going from $60 billion to $110 billion. So it's not like someone's cutting the program, it's just being directed towards those folks that should be getting it and not the ones that should not. So the error rates have jumped up. California is high in the amount of errors it is in this program. So California needs to be accountable for what the federal government sends, whether they're talking, again, Medi-Cal or the SNAP program. That's not asking anything of the government.
Trump needs to be accountable.
That said, let's go ahead and open it up for questions and comments. So let's do that part. So how, folks, with our hearings over here with one, okay? And David's got one over here.
Okay.
All right.
So this is the thing. And if this microphone starts to crackle really loud, I'm super sorry. I had somebody over here who's mad that it's hard to hear. We started working on this at 3 o'clock this afternoon, trying to get the microphones, and this is as good as it gets. So we tried like standing on the floor, standing on the stage, speaking, telling you. So we're sorry that it isn't perfect, but it's not our facility. And I think actually it's really pretty in here, but I think this muffles it a bit too. So this is the deal. This side of the room, I'm sure you've figured out already, is the ask a question side. That side is the make a comment side with no response. So some people just have something to say. So if you just have something to say, that's fine. If you have a question, you want a response, this side. In order to get through, I don't know how many of you are standing and how many of you are waiting. How many of you are like waiting to ask a question, just out of curiosity? Okay, so fun. I can tell you from this morning, because we did this once already, that it will be difficult to get through everyone. So the way it works best is if you guys have the green and red papers that everybody brings, which is super handy. If you use those rather than yell over your fellow constituents here that are trying to ask stuff, that saves time and allows us to move along. They'll do a 1 minute comment and then a 1 minute comment, 2 minute total. This side is a 30-second question and like minute and a half answer. So this is basically 2 minutes and that's 2. And that way we can click back and forth between the sides and hopefully get through everybody. But it doesn't work if everybody just shouts everybody down and then everything takes twice as long. So, with that.
Okay, we've got the comment section over here, and the questions over here. Let's go with a couple comments. Thank you.
Good evening, Doug LaMalfa. My name is Jessica Stradiota, and I'm a lifelong resident of Tehama County. I recently had the honor of getting a award from you. You support the Step Up program and Justice Involved, and you've shown interest in supporting justice involved individuals and their families. I want to find out basically what kind of programs we could be implementing in Tehama County or in the smaller rural areas that will, like re-entry programs for youth involved. We have like behavioral health, we have drug court, and we have, you know, a lot of things for the adults, but not much for the youth. And then I've seen them over and over end up right back in the jail system, including myself and my own children. So I would like to see some funding for re-entry programs for youth.
Hello, Doug. Rose Penelope Lee. I'm a resident of Shasta County. I'm an American. I'm a taxpayer. I just want to make it clear that we, taxpayers here in America, are the ones that pay your salary. So your congressional wages come out of the pockets of all of us taxpayers here. And yet, you haven't held a town hall in years. And so why is that? You know, people are thinking you're scared of being held accountable. And so this town hall, this is your performance review from us, your bosses. And my grade for you is an F because you failed us.
Okay, so we're over to the question side, and if you ask them to lower the volume, if you ask her to lower the volume on 2 a little bit, it's feeding back. Never mind, hopefully she heard me back there. I have an helper, but I can't see. Great system, isn't it? All right, you're on.
I'm a resident of Red Bluff. A very quick question. I'm sure many people here have the same question. When you get back from recess, go back to Washington, will you or will you not be voting in favor of the release of all the records, of the Epstein records, for all of us to see?
Yeah, I support 100% transparency in that situation. We should not have anybody in any way getting away with child trafficking, the sexual trafficking that is going on or had gone on there, and they need to be held accountable for that. So there's a legal process. I just saw again today where the judge still wants to seal the grand jury, one of the grand jury reports on that. So we've got to find a way to work through that because who knows what information might be useful that's sealed in the grand jury report. And I believe there's another one still to be dealt with. So we have to be able to get the information. Now, an important factor that isn't being talked about too in some of this information is that the names of the innocent, the names of the victims, are going to be in that information, or information that could easily be linked and identifies that. So that's why it needs to be somewhat care used and how the information is allowed to come out. So, but as far as the perpetrators, absolutely need to be violated, prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
Why was Maxwell moved?
So we hope to get to that back in September, but by doing a reactionary thing in Congress, if that exposes information doesn't need to get out there as far as the victims themselves, and that would be actually a very poor way of doing that. So we'll need to get there, and I think hopefully it's getting ground out here in August. I was disappointed again that grand jury report may not become available, so I hope we can pull things from that will help the case. Okay?
Nothing new in it.
Guys, we're over on the comments. I just want to make one thing. It's not fair to the people that have been standing there. Can you yell over them?
The sound in here is a little bit rough, so we gotta speak slowly and clearly will help. Okay, thank you.
Sir, you state you're all about law and order, yet you support an adjudicated rapist and a 34-count felon who has been convicted as a criminal here in the United States of America. Sir, you voted to overthrow the vote of the American people. That's criminal. You should be charged with insurrection. Sir, you continue to state that President Obama is responsible for all this Epstein mess. You are a liar covering up for a adjudicated rapist. Stop being a pimp and start getting a backbone, because you know what, sir? Democrats are tired of always standing high when you go low. We're done with that. We're going to use good trouble and protest to stop your fascism from infesting the United States of America.
Sir, I'd like you to consider discussing with your colleagues returning to a time when media outlets had to report facts, all of them, with a minimum amount of, what would it be, opinion. Because I feel like a big part of the divisiveness in this country is due to the fact that we don't have, I mean, I grew up in the 60s, 70s. We just took it for granted that most of the news we were getting was factual. Now, I don't know what to believe anymore. It's just crazy. Okay. Also, yes, I am concerned about Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, but also I noticed I had a gut reaction at one time when you came to Reading, and it turned out you were only meeting with some specific group of Christians. And for me, it's like, I've already had people who belong to particular types of Christian groups tell me I'm going to hell because I'm Catholic. And so I think of all my friends who are Buddhist or Muslim, and I think, aren't we supposed to have a separation of church and state? Thank you.
Okay, we have a question over here on that side. 1 second.
Thank you, Mr. LaMalfa, for coming to Tacoma County. And I'm not sure if this question is appropriate for you, but I was just wondering in regards to fire insurance for homeowners, is there any possibility of you being able to work with our governor, Mr. Newsom, to make some changes in regards to the fire insurance policies?
Did you say the fire insurance?
Fire insurance.
You know, it's largely a state-regulated issue. We're trying to, I think the focus we can have is to make the insurance easier to get and more competitive to write. So, for example, when a fire wipes out an area, the level of risk in that area is going to be a heck of a lot lower than before came through. And you take any of our towns that have suffered from this Paradise, Magalia, Greenville, Canyon Dam, West Reading. Now that those trees are all wiped out, it should be more insurable, especially if those areas, if you have Forest Service land right up bordered against the private properties. Now, that's not a way to do it, but certainly after that, you should be able to have insurance look at the risk. It's a pool of risk, right? And so we're also looking at, I was speaking with Senator Schiff about this, on an idea he had on making insurance and insurability work a little bit better too. So I hope we can come to something that would be really bipartisan, something we can move to both houses. But largely, it is regulated by the state of California, and so we need help there from the state legislators and the insurance commissioner to be clear on how that is. So if the insurance companies pulling out because they can't get, in their view, the return they need to be able to competitively be there. So you hear about that all the time. But we need to have the risk level much lower from fire, from vastly overcrowded forests. That's why we work so hard on this Fix Our Forests Act and the other things we do on the Forest Committee to lower that risk and make things more insurable. But that's one of the best things we can do. Thank you. To build, we'll get a lot of jobs out of it around here too. I'd rather people be out there cutting the timber, moving the timber processing it instead of watching it burn or having to have so many fires in every few. Okay.
I just wanted to say thank you, sir, for your diligence and not giving up to provide fire relief. I just want to say thank you for your diligence and not giving up to provide fire relief to the victims of the fires and going back even though you kept getting shot down.
Congressman, I would like to thank you for coming tonight. We met about a year and a half ago when a similar event was held for the County Board of Supervisors, and you remarked about the food being better than anything you'd ever been fed by a lobbyist. And so welcome back. And my concern is the Hobby Lobby court decision that declared corporations to be people. Okay, people are flesh and blood human beings. They laugh, they cry, they're born and they die through the miracle of mammalian reproduction. And mammalian reproduction is a gift from God, and it's very holy. Okay, corporations, on the other hand, are fictional. They're drawn up on paper, but they're owned by people. But oftentimes, who owns it is almost impossible to determine. And it could very well be that, you know, some of these corporations are controlled by people like Kim Il-jung, Vladimir Putin, China, and those are enemies of the people. So we really need to amend the Constitution to put a stop to that.
Agreed. Corporations need accountability as well. They're not always very.
Okay, we have a question over here on this side.
Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman LaMalfa, for coming to talk to us tonight. I'm Dr. Doug Matthews. I'm a surgeon from Chico and a board member of the New Glenn Medical Society. Thank you for your support of Glenn Medical Centers as deal with CMS's revoking their critical access status. With 500 rural hospitals and multiple mid-sized hospitals, including St. Lucia's here in Red Bluff, the risk of hospital closures with any increase in uncompensated care is real for these communities. We appreciate the $50 billion set aside for rural hospitals in H.R. 1. But when this falls short of the estimated impact of about $100 billion of uncompensated care across the country, can we depend on your health department to save these hospitals, which are such critical pieces of these local communities in the rural part of California?
Thank you for that, Doctor. Appreciate it. And again, we are, as you mentioned, really weighing in on this Glenn Medical Center issue and this anomaly of after 24 years of service as a critical access hospital, that now, by a whim of how they interpret the maps, that a mileage issue would kick them out. At the very least, they need to be grandfathered in to be able to keep their status, and maybe all new ones from here, if there ever is a new one, that would apply to that. But simply by changing to Google Maps instead of what they were using in the past, should not make them ineligible. So we keep battling on that. Like we're expecting any day a decision on that, but we'll weigh in with the director there, Dr. Oz, on that, and trying to get a conference call lined up with him. Hey, he's the guy in charge, okay? That's the guy. And so we talked to whoever we have to in the bite here. I'm there to do the work, so I appreciate that. So and that's the critical access piece. And of course, our hospitals face difficulty all the time, especially the rural areas. We have many of them in this, all the way up in Modoc County, Cedarville, and Alturas, and all the way down. And so, what we're seeking in that bill, what is that stopgap of the $50 billion to help get through? But we also have to do something about the massively rising cost of delivering health care. And how do we achieve that? Hospitals in California have to deal with such incredibly bad regulations. And I've lived out as 8 years as a state legislator. The group called OSHPAD was just hell on wheels against hospitals. We tried to straighten them out. These earthquake mandates, right? You have to build a new hospital because it may not be someone's idea of earthquake proof. That doesn't help. A closed hospital that is in a non-earthquake risk zone. So it's on and on and on, the difficulty. You have your DaVita care right here in Red Bluff. Back when I was a state legislator, they were taking forever to come up and sign off to get that facility open. They were just, we're going to be there in 3 months. We're busy, but that's unacceptable. We had them up here within 2 weeks. They signed off and got to open up and treat people for dialysis. So these are the things you have to overcome with the bureaucracy at the state level too. So we'll always battle for you. Our hospitals are extremely important, especially as tough as it is in rural areas. Thank you.
My comment right now isn't for Mr. LaMalfa. It's for the crowd. Guys, what are you doing? When you had power, we let you talk. We let you govern. Now that you lose power, this is how you act? This district has been Republican longer than a lot of you have moved here. So please, go to your cities. He was just finished in Chico, and he will be up and ready. Voice your concerns there. This is about Red Bluff. We had a nice lady who asked Mr. LaMalfa about funding for our county. And what do? You make it about yourselves. Let it go. Let us talk. Mr. LaMalfa, I have 3 things to say to you. State of Jefferson, legalize marijuana whenever it comes up, and affordable housing. If you can do those 3 things for any of us in this picture, it'll be State of Jefferson, legalize marijuana, and housing affordability. Your choice. Thank you. Go home. Do this in your own home. This is our home. Okay, great. Thank you. You could have had time on the microphone.
All right,
but you didn't.
Hosting a lady opportunity to be able to present, and everybody that would like to listen. Okay, thank you.
Hi, just to quickly answer the man who just spoke. Those of us from Reading are here because LaMalfa is too scared to meet with the Reading audience. Yeah, that's forever. Now, I'm here because I would like to state a few facts. Now, I've worked in eligibility for 10 years for eligibility in food stamps, known as CalFresh in California, and Medicaid, known as Medi-Cal in California. Able-bodied adults without dependents are less than 10% of the population of those receiving food stamps and Medi-Cal. The majority of people who receive both food stamps and Medicaid are working, disabled, elderly, or under the age of 18.
You don't pay taxes.
You say you're not cutting Medicaid for food stamps? It's not true. You add any sort of
paperwork requirements, and you make those who are the weakest, the elderly, the disabled, they can't fill out their forms, and then they're going to be off aid. And it's those people that you were sworn to protect, not to just get out the few able-bodied adults without dependents that you think are not working.
I'm going to bend the roll a little bit just to remind the fact on SNAP spending was, as I mentioned earlier, has nearly doubled since just 2019. It's gone from 60 billion to 110 billion. That is not a cut.
Okay. So, take a breath. It's this nice man's turn from Wayne.
Hello, Mr. LaMalfa. My name is Logan Schaefer. Thanks for giving me an opportunity to speak to you today. And we live out at the Bend River Park, and they're raising the rent out, and some people are 50% raising it. It's a mobile home and trailer park, and we want to know what governmental agency is in charge of implementing it, because we got passed through the county and everything, but we don't know which agency would do it on the tax increase for your rental when the new company comes in and takes over.
I'm having a devil time understanding. Can you put it into the question? Because either my ears are ringing or the room or something. I just couldn't understand you well, sir.
How much, what government agency can take over what you need for California, because we've got it passed through the Tama County, and what state agency is when it can implement it so that you have like a 10% increase. They got it for the housing, but they don't have it for mobile homes and fifth wheels. They're not hard.
Aaron, help me out here. Help me out.
Rent control for mobile.
What about it?
For trailers.
Okay, the gist is my thoughts on rent control. Yeah, it's a disincentive for people to own and operate rental properties, and if they aren't able to recoup anything, then they'll be closed, they'll be raised, and you can't upgrade them. Okay, so rent control is one that will eliminate more and more rental properties for people. And so, I mean, I understand there's Section 8, there's other ways that people seek aid. You can't put it on the back of the person that owns and operates and maintains the building. It has to come from, a fair level of rent. Now, one thing we don't talk about enough is how do we cut costs of doing business for anybody? Electricity costs, through the roof, fuel costs, everything. The repairs. I mean, when you go price something, a 2x4 is incredibly high now, even though the guys up in the forest aren't making that money off of it. So rent control isn't going to be the issue. It's going to be cost control of things that drive costs and incentivize those folks to want to invest in their buildings to make them better and keep them available. Okay?
Hi, Doug. Thanks for coming. I appreciate it. I'm going to ask a few things. It's going to be a three-pronger, so here we go. Let's see. Board of Supervisors, you need to step it up because our jury report was trash. The road suck. Figure it out. We don't need cupcakes. We need responsible people. Second of all, Doug LaMalfa, where is the big reserve that was 63 miles from Calusa or whatever? Where's our water reserve? We got like over $1 trillion. You just said Trump gave you $2.7 billion for that reserve specifically in that site in February. So where is the reserve? When is that going to be done? Also, Crane Orchard made $3.2 billion, which is 15% more than they made the year before. And I would like to know, when do we get kickbacks as a county? I don't know if the board gets them or what, but like, when do we get new parks? When do we get roads? The trees are here to Sacramento. Where'd your rice go? Where's our water? It's gone from farming, not from us. They're trying to meter our wells here. We want weights management here. They're screwing the water people over here. So,
Stop oligarchy.
Look, I'm not supposed to answer the comments per se, but the quick answer is build more water storage, build more water supply. That helps the traffic, helps the price, it helps replenish the groundwater, and then we can farm with it. People can use it in their towns and communities. And yes, even the fish would have water. but we can't have it all go for environmental water every time. Oh, sorry, yeah.
Mr. LaMalfa, I sent you a letter, and I'm sure by now you've read it and have it framed in your office. My name is Gerald Clemens. I'm from Tama County. I'm an American citizen. I am a veteran from Vietnam, and I'm retired 32 years law enforcement. My comment is this.
Bless you, sir, for your service. Welcome home.
Thank you. My comment is this. I would really like to see Congress and the judicial educate America and a lot of people in this room of Title 8, Section 1324, which is the law prohibiting people to come into this country illegally. It's a violation, it's a misdemeanor, or a $500 fine. First time. Second time, it's a felony. Also, Title 8, Section 1325, any American citizen who assists those individuals in hiding or staying in this country is guilty of a felony. I would like to see that education go out, and I would like to see the prosecution begin. Thank you.
Hello. My question is about anthropogenic global warming, which exclusively refers to the climate crisis that's being generated by human-generated CO2. It's not weather question. This is climate question. There's global consensus from climate scientists around the globe that we're in a climate crisis. There's not a major university around the globe that has not agreed with this. The Department of Defense, the Department of the Army and the Navy, they all say that it's real. Now, you must have some very compelling information to make you believe that all these people are either part of a hoax or they're too stupid that they've been taken in by a hoax. Please tell us what your information is that makes you believe that climate change is a hoax.
Well, that's actually a little bit off. The climate does change. It changes often. And so what this really boils down to is that there's folks that want it to be blamed on human activity for how much the climate might shift. The climate shifts drastically compared towards what human activity is. And if you want to talk just carbon dioxide for a moment, which seems to be listed under the Obama administration back in 2009 as the engagement clause, just arbitrarily. CO2 is the enemy, right? So, carbon is the basic building block of life on Earth. Every living creature needs it in some fashion.
Let him talk!
All plant life relies on CO2. You see, greenhouses have extra CO2 pumped into them to make the plants grow faster. And so you have a situation where somebody has decided that CO2 could be the enemy, and they've been leveraging that in order to tax people, to control people, and do silly things like the California high-speed rail system, for example, that is 20 years behind and 4 times over budget. So, CO2
It is! What evidence do you want? It is.
One of the questions I like to ask are people that are proffering the climate change and actually trying to make policy out of it. Like, well, can you tell me, this is a baseline. You want to reduce the CO2 in the atmosphere by so many gazillion tons. Well, what is the baseline? How much CO2 is there in the atmosphere? No one could ever tell me with anywhere close to accuracy. And so, you know that number, right? You know what the percentage is. And I won't put you on the spot. The answer is not, I'll ask normal people who are going about their lives, what do you think it is? They'll say, 20%, 30%, 10%, 40, 70. There's some really high numbers. The amount of CO2 in the atmosphere is actually 0.04%. Okay? This is not a life-ending thing that is being manipulated by those.
You're angry at math now. Biology. Let
him follow up. You got something? Pardon? Okay. All right. So, Everything we do to curb CO2 in this country is being outstripped by China and others on the Pacific Rim by a gigantic 10-to-1 ratio. They're building more coal plants while we're shutting our industry down in this country. The U.S. is much more responsible on how it does things as far as the air quality and things like that. Then when we shift our economy over to those countries to do it cheaper and to do it because we can't do it here because of these regulations.
Hello. So first of all, thank you to those I do agree with and don't agree with for being brave enough to come up to the mic. I think it can be pretty cowardly to come to these and just sit and yell from a sea of people. To continue, for those who get into the text and read things, I just want to run off a list of things I thank you for your yays on this year alone. That being the Communication Security Act, the Cybersecurity Mobile Networks Act, the Consumer Safety Technology Act, the Jocelyn Wildlife Refuge Act. I appreciate the true conservatism there. The Big Beautiful Bill Act, cue red light. It's a, you know what, we're used to this. This is all good. Thank you for voting yes on the condemning the violent June 2025 riots in Los Angeles, for the American Entrepreneurs First Act, for the CEASE Act, and for the Save SBA from Sanctuary Cities Act. I know not everything is in your control, but PG&E is criminal. Do something with them. And Tehama County can keep your hands out of our wells.
First of all, thanks very much for finally being here. I think it was before the pandemic that you held an in-person forum, so thanks for being here. And I have to say that you have a lot of gall to come here and tell us about being responsible, the state being responsible. You have a lot of gall to put your hand over your heart with that flag and say, and justice for all, and liberty and justice for all. When on January 6th, 2021, 1,575 criminals committed a crime against the Temple of Freedom. And on that day, you made a choice to violate your oath to the Constitution and not certify the election. And every single day since then, you violated your oath. But you have loyalty. You have loyalty to an agitated rapist, to a felon, to somebody who mocks people in wheelchairs, to somebody who mocks women. You could have been Liz Cheney. You could have been like Adam Kinzinger. You could have had integrity.
We don't get to stay later. I mean, we've borrowed the building for a period of time, so when it's over, it's over. So the yelling is kind of killing it.
Yeah.
Hi. So one of the biggest problems we have in the Northstate is access to health care. There are 22 hospitals in California, in the shopping block of the place because Medicaid cuts. I made a list for you. 7 of them are in Northstate. The other problem we have is recruiting doctors. You signed a bill that limits borrowing to $200,000. Our only hope of recruiting doctors to the Northstate is by growing our own, by making sure that our children can grow up to be doctors. They can't. You kept the borrowing $200,000. No child. What are you going to do to allow a child for middle class to graduate if they have to cap their borrowing to $200,000? How does that pay for medical school? And what are you going to do to save this house? Thank you.
Again, I gotta have you repeat that question a little more clearly for me. It's hard to hear up there.
She wants to know how you're going to get more doctors, basically. If you cap the ability, if you cap the ability for them to borrow for medical school to $200,000.
Okay, so it's a difficult situation, especially these days with getting more doctors, getting them through med school, and you talked about having a limit of $200,000 of debt. I need to be more aware of how that works. I don't have that information.
Do you know? Show me the provision.
But think about that debt load. There's been a lot of conversation about college loan debt or medical school loan debt. $200,000 might preclude people from even being able to buy the house because they're spending so much of their life erasing debt. So it comes back to, how do we lower the cost of doing business? How do we lower the cost of getting people to medical school? And that's something we need to focus on, not just giving money and more loans, because they'll be trying with that forever. And we need that to happen. And it seems like it's a disincentive these days to get into the medical field. We had a severe nursing shortage just a few years ago. It improved quite a bit, but still, we need to address that. My colleague from Arizona, you ought to watch the speakers sometimes. He really addresses skyrocketing healthcare costs. And so much of that is driven by things that aren't necessary. When we look at the regulatory load, for example, again, and you complained a while ago, as I mentioned, the state. Well, there's so many things that are federal and state partnership or dual operations that if the state is not doing its end of it on whether it's managing its part on Medi-Cal with federal dollars, or as difficult as it's making on hospitals to exist and do what they need to do. It's amazing. And you can talk to an hospital CEO. There's one that's done a major revamp, and one I won't name the town because I want to not hang them out there, but they're still waiting many months later for the state regulators to approve them. And they're trying to extract more things out of them that weren't even in the original construction plan. So that doesn't help hospitals. So if we want to address the costs of delivering medical care and having people be into it, enter the field, enter the profession, and we got to do a lot better job, not saddling with more debt. We need to find these opportunities for them to do that and not have overwhelming costs of medical school. So does that mean more campuses? Does it mean more slots, more opportunities? We have to look at that. I don't claim to have all the answers standing right here. Okay?
Hi, I'm a middle of the road. I don't vote on party lines. What I do vote is on honesty and integrity. A lot of people don't know that we voted for the cut of $8 billion for people in need, but he voted for the subsidies, farm subsidies, up to $66 billion subsidies that you are getting. Is that okay? No, that's not okay. You're taking away from the poor and the needy, and you voted for $66 billion increase for farm subsidies that you are receiving. And you also said, ran on one of you. I don't get farm subsidies. Do you? Anybody here? Farm subsidies? No. That's on the Congress. Be honest and vote for the people, not to vote.
This is very straightforward. I'm just concerned that the so-called big, beautiful bill cut out all the funding for the corporations for public broadcasting. KRCR on local stations. 40% of this budget is reliant on federal funds. And in a community like Reading, they don't have big industry or major corporations to make up that kind of shortage. I think PBS and NPR are extremely valuable.
JPR. Jefferson.
So I hear the disconnect. When I hear you talk about the Israeli conflict, I hear you talk about Hamas attacking them and Hezbollah attacking them. What I don't hear is anything about Palestinians, and the people that are being affected right now are Palestinians. So I'm wanting you to answer that disconnect and tell me if you understand that women, children, and babies are being killed at an enormous rate. So it's one. The second question has to do with the CPA disconnect when you talk about criminals and due process. When you talk about some of them, you talk about insurrectionists as though they deserve due process, or Donald Trump and Epstein, they do due process. but somehow ICE agents can go snatch people off the street with a mask on without identifying themselves. Senators are being tackled to the ground when they go and try to represent those people. I'm wondering about your position on that.
Well, the term illegal immigration is what is being fought here by ICE, is that people are here in this country illegally because they broke in. We don't allow that. And this is finally being enforced under the Trump administration. So,
Hey guys,
we need to have discernment on who is being arrested or picked up, and if there's a mistake was made, they grab the wrong person, and that person deserves to be released immediately. So that's the process we want. But by and large, when you've had an era where somewhere in the millions of people have been allowed to get into this country because of the porous border previously, we got a lot of work to do on that. So everybody is allowed due process. If you're a citizen, if you had a green card, if you had a visa, then unless you've committed a crime, then there shouldn't be a question about their ability to be reviewed in that process. So let me come back to the Hamas portion here, okay? So on October 7th, a couple of years ago, Israel was peacefully mining its own workers there. And so we get this all spun into that somehow Israel defending itself is the one that's wrong, the one that's crying. And so we have, and let's talk about the immigration side. You should see the photographs of the wall between Egypt and Gaza. It's bigger than any wall you've ever seen. They don't want their Gazans or their Palestinians or whatever you want to call the group to come across into Egypt. Okay? So why is it all on the backs of Israeli citizens, Israeli taxpayers, to somehow take care of this group of people that were their first acts as soon as Gaza was turned over to them, was to start launching rockets to elect Hamas as their leadership. Okay? That's what they've done. Why should Israel have to bend over backwards to try and resist this act? Israel must be Hamas so they can peacefully exist. Then if the people of the Gaza area wish to peacefully exist, they don't do this fine. If they don't wish to, if they want to have these regimes in place, they want to inflict terror, then you're going to continue to have a problem. Israel has a right to defend itself.
Yeah! So does Ukraine! Shut up!
Take your own advice.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you for being here.
You!
Second of all, I want to say I respect everyone's opinion. I'm going to kind of change here a little bit. I'm only going to talk about what I know. I've spent my life taking care of cattle and feeding the United States. I've worked in major feedlots across the country. I've spent 6 days a week, 12 hours a day in the saddle. I've spent my life shoeing horses. And I'm just trying to make it in this big world. We're having a huge problem right now with the wolves, and I wanted to bring it up. I know that everyone can respect their opinion on it, but that's how I feed my family. And the fact that I can't defend my livelihood and all the other ranchers is really hard. I just want to bring it to your attention that we fight for what we want. Unless they tell us we can't, I don't understand how that works. If I can't go to work and I can't make a living, how am I supposed to make it? So I just want to bring that up. Thank you.
All of us.
You should send that over to the question line there, okay? So I can follow the rules there. You should put that in the question line, okay?
You already broken the rules.
I'm trying not to bend the rule too much, okay? So here we go. All right.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Hello.
Well, you do have to have a little bit of ability to move on your feet a little bit. Go ahead, son.
Hello, my name is Riley, and I just want to say one thing. Thank you for coming here to see us all and to take our opinions. It's hard being under a lot of criticism. And one thing to the audience, I am 16 years old, and even I don't make those rude comments. And one more thing, the fact that I am a child, and you guys are acting childish, more childish than me as elderly adults. It's crazy. Thank you.
Parents should be proud. Go home. Good racing. Good racing.
Thank you ahead of time for your response. Can you hear me okay? Oops. Thank you for your response ahead of time. Can you hear me all right? Okay, good. Can you acknowledge that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza? And how will you move forward as our representative, the person that we voted in to voice our opinions when you go to Washington?
This is the part that's difficult to decipher here, because how is Israel in the process of defending itself the bad guy here? They were innocently attacked on October 7th. They were in 1948, as soon as the country came into existence. The first thing that happened was 5 Arab countries attacked them and tried to eliminate them in 1948. Again in 1967, again in 1973, time and time and time again. We have people avowed to push Israel from the river to the sea, right? That's their deal, okay? So they have a right to defend themselves. So when you say, okay, the genocide term is what you use. Now, this lays right at the feet of Hamas, who locates their
Hamas!
And their army underneath the mosques, underneath the schools, in the medical centers, and Israel has to somehow figure out how to destroy these weapon systems there, because these guys are such cowards that they use their own people as shields.
Okay, so
okay, did I not focus on what yeah, should I call it genocide?
To know what
you want me to say it's genocide? It's not genocide. It's defending themselves. And Hamas is using their own people as human shields in order to keep
education. Go
home. I don't know why that is so hard for people to understand. This is political for you people that are supporting this Hamas group. Hamas should not subject the children to the battlefield. That's what they're doing.
Thank you, Mr. LaMalfa, for coming here and manifest on Friday. My name is Carolyn Wild. I'm from Grand County. And I know you're on the Natural Resources Committee, and I'm really interested in all the changes that happened to particularly the Forest Service, as close as us, but also the National Park Service, BLM, and the proposed 30% cut. I know you want to do a lot of stuff.
David, could you hold that mic differently somehow? Could you hold it like more perpendicular, straight up, and a little bit different distance? Not like that. A little more straight in line. More straight in line.
Can you hear me now? Yes. Can you hear me now? Okay. So I'm interested in the fact that there's a proposed 30% cut for the natural resource agencies, BLM, Forest Service, Park Service, and I heard you say you want them to do more stuff with the infrastructure that we have there. And how can they do this if they don't have staff, they can't do the stuff? Are you thinking of potential privatization of our forests? Because they're being used more and more for recreation. They're part of the wilderness that most people don't have. And I think we should consider that very carefully. Because I want to preserve our natural resources as much as possible for the people to use it in a responsible, managed way.
Well, quick comment on that. We had the cattle prod with Mendocino National Forest to get out there and do the work to get the forest open so they could access it.
Breaking the rules.
I'll do my own rules, thanks.
I've got a draft proposal here for water reorganization plan. After a water reorganization plan, we've got committee upon committee taxing us citizens. This is mostly for the Board of Supervisors. It's not for you.
but your commission on advocacy